And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Clanton versus Raduazo, step forward, please.
Kristen Clanton and her husband Mark are suing antique limo business owner Frank Raduazo for causing them to be late for their own wedding and for ruining her dress.
Mrs. Clanton, you retained the defendant's limousine company to provide transportation for you and your husband for your wedding, and claimed that because of problems that developed with the cars, you were late for your own wedding, your dress got ruined because the cars broke down. All in all, it was a terrible day, and you want some compensation. He says he provided the best service that he could for you under the circumstances, and there were problems with the cars. The problems were really your fault because you insisted upon using the antique cars rather than regular cars. Is that right?
That's true.
Okay. How did you find this company?
I actually had a bridal fair. They had given me a flyer.
Can I see the flyer, please?
Sure can.
Because a lot of this has to do with the fact that you and your husband selected antique cars to use to take you to your wedding. The defendant says that because of weather conditions that existed over the week or so prior to the wedding, he had suggested to you that it would not be a good idea to use these antique cars, but he would send other cars, and you insisted on using the antique cars. That's what he said.
Yes.
All right. When did the Clantons contact you about using your antique cars?
On May 20th in the year 2001.
And when was the wedding scheduled?
June 15th, 2002.
And when they contacted you, they told you that they wanted to use the antique cars?
That's correct.
And told them what the cost was?
Correct.
Did you tell them anything else?
The discussion at that time was basically the address, what's on the contract.
Can I see the contract, please?
When we
originally... Just a minute. So it's clear that they specified a Rolls-Royce with leather seats.
Correct.
And there was nothing in this contract that indicated that there was anything wrong with this car that prevented it from being used in inclement weather.
Other than the fact is, if the question was, if there were a problem with the vehicle,
yes,
would we have a backup type of vehicle under those conditions so that they wouldn't be without a car?
And what did you say?
And I told her, yes, that would be true.
What kind of backup vehicle did you have?
We have additional Rolls-Royces.
Good. Oh.
Plus limousines.
So you could have sent them, under the contract, another Rolls-Royce.
Which we did do.
Which also broke down.
Both cars did.
Both cars broke down.
Correct.
Okay. Why don't you tell me about the travails? You're at home waiting for the car to pick you up, and what happened?
I'm at home getting ready. I have the whole bridal party at the house. I get the phone call from Mr. Raduazo. Basically, he was calling me to tell me that the car that I rented with him was not going to run.
What did he say?
He basically just told me that it was raining out and that the car wasn't going to run well. I rented this car for the day of my wedding a year in advance. You know, this is part of a dream that I had. I wanted an old-fashioned car for the day of my wedding. And
so he called and told you the car was not going to run well.
Right.
What did you say?
I was basically in shock, to be honest with you. I thought it was a joke. I thought somebody was calling me. It was like 3 hours before I was going to get married. I thought it was going to be a joke.
So, what did you say?
Basically, we hung up. I mean, he told me that the car wasn't going to run well.
What did you say, Miss Clanton? I'm asking you, what did you say to him? You didn't just hang up. He says the car's not going to run well. You're home. You're going to say you're going to send another car. You say you better send that car anyway. What did you say to him?
I basically just told him to send a car to get me to my wedding.
So did he send a car?
Yes, he did.
What time is the car supposed to pick you up?
4:30.
What time did the car pick you up?
4:30.
What happened when the car picked you up?
The vehicle that showed up was not the vehicle that I rented. It was
it
another old-fashioned car.
Was it a Rolls-Royce?
I believe so.
Old or new?
It was older. It wasn't freshly painted. It was disgusting.
What happened on the way to the church?
Well, we live probably about a mile from the highway. We barely even made it to the highway. The car stalled before we even got onto the on-ramp. My mother was in the front. I was in the back with my brother, and basically the car was stalled out. We finally got it started. I was in tears. I was very upset.
What time did you get there?
Definitely late. That car was backfiring, so finally I talked the driver into getting us a backup car. So finally, around the corner from the church, they had another car meet us, which I had to get out in the rain, get into the other vehicle, and we were only about maybe a couple blocks from the church, so we were late. The ceremony was at 5:30, and we were definitely at least 10 minutes late.
Now, from there, you were going to the reception.
Right.
Which car did you get into to go to the reception?
A second car showed up, still not the car that we booked.
But another Rolls-Royce?
Yes.
And what happened with that car?
We probably got almost halfway there. On the side of the highway, major highway, we break down. again. So we had to get out of the vehicle. We were on the side of the road in the pouring rain. I was getting mud splashed up on my gown.
Why did you have to get out?
We had to get out and try to get somebody to drive us.
Well, you didn't have to do that. You have a driver there for that. What?
The car itself, when it broke down on the side of the road, the photographer was behind us in a caravan. So I got out of the car and I flagged down the caravan. So I had to get her out of the car, get her in the caravan.
Okay, but she wasn't outside trying to flag down a car.
No, but getting her out of the car is where the dress started. I don't know how to hold the dress up. I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to that.
You better figure it out.
You know, and then when we got to the church, I had no idea any of this was going on at all. And I'm thinking my wife left me before I got married, so I don't know what's going on. And the car shows up, and it's about 15 minutes later than we were supposed to start the wedding.
We're past the wedding. Get it together, Mr. Clanton. We're at the reception. You already got married. Now you're on your way from the church to the reception.
And we got stuck on the side of the road.
That's what we're up to.
Yep, and I had to
And
get
you
her out
gave
of the
me a
car.
very plausible explanation for the question that I asked. Don't volunteer anything else. Answer only questions posed.
Okay.
You won't get into any trouble that way. That's very good advice for a young married person. Don't volunteer any information. Do you understand?
Oh, absolutely.
Perfect. Mr. Radoazzo, sounds to me like you ought to get rid of your fleet of Rolls Royces, sir, and stop advertising them. They don't run.
Your Honor, the cars are 40 years old plus.
Problem is that you understand that some people really love the idea of getting married in one of these old cars. You have other cars in your fleet. I'm sure you have much newer limousines in your fleet. Fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
But when you advertise with the white Rolls Royce because that's sort of a dream that lots of young people have and older people have when they get married, of being married and using one of these cars, elegant cars, to get them to and from. And what I'm telling you is that it sounds to me as if at least 3 cars in your fleet don't run if it's damp.
May I explain?
Yeah.
Okay. I started to call their home on the 13th of June.
That's a lie. You never
I
called.
spoke.
What did I tell you about volunteering? Don't you understand? Go ahead, sir.
I spoke to her father, I believe it was, and I explained that we were in conditions that just don't normally happen. We had 50-degree temperatures with rain, thunderstorms, fog. And I wanted to switch them to a limousine at that time. That was the 13th. I called again on the 14th and again tried to get them to go into a limousine. I called the morning of the wedding and the bride hung up on me and left me no alternative but to send the car.
You don't understand what I'm saying to you, Mr. Radoazzo. What I'm saying to you is you ought to get rid of this fleet of Rolls Royces that are 40 years old because, sir, they don't run well and you should stop advertising them. Now, if in the contract you said if you want Rolls Royces, you can only use them in good weather because in bad weather they don't run well and you make them aware of that, well, then they've been forewarned.
Well, they asked me at the time that we went into the agreement, what would happen if you had a problem with this car? And I explained to them.
Yeah, that's right. If you had a problem with that car, then you send another Rolls Royce. That's what the agreement was. That's not your problem, Mr. Radoazzo. Your problem is you had information that your customer didn't have. And the information that you had at the time you entered into this contract was that your fleet of Rolls Royces do not run well in certain kinds of weather. And that information you had to share with them because you knew that there was an inherent defect in the product that you were offering to them, and that inherent defect was that it doesn't go in the rain. Then they're aware of it. And then they could have made a choice. They're not aware of it. And so you are responsible. You're not responsible for everything that they think you're responsible for ruining their day. But you are responsible for giving them back their money. They didn't get what they bargained for. Let me see pictures of your wedding dress.
I only have a picture of us getting out of the minivan on the side of the highway. I didn't know that we were going to run into this problem, so somebody had a job to take my gown to the cleaner. So I do have the cleaner's bill and also a note from the cleaner stating that he couldn't get
Is this getting you out of the photographer's van?
Yes.
I don't see any stains on the dress. If your wedding dress is all covered with mud, then you must have a picture from your wedding showing me that the wedding dress, you say in your complaint, is covered with mud. I don't see it in this picture. Mr. Radoazzo, stop advertising these cars or at least modify your contract to provide that these cars do not run in the rain, they do not run in the damp, they do not run in the wet. And if somebody wishes to rent them on that basis, with the understanding that unless the weather is crystal clear and perfect, they're not going to run, they should have a substitute car, I think you're going to be faced with these lawsuits all the time. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $395. That's
I feel bad that the day was not what it was supposed to be.
I probably would have never rented the vehicle if this was going to be a problem.
Hopefully in the future we'll do a better job.
Hired driver Rafael Valley is suing his son, 27-year-old truck driver Jose Valley, and his daughter-in-law, 22-year-old customer service rep Cynthia Valley. Rafael says the couple owes for a loan to bail Jose out of jail.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 34 on the calendar in the matter of Valley versus Valley.
Thank you, Bert.
Quite welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Having a senior moment there, darling?
Having a senior moment.
Get used to it. Mr. Valley, the defendant is your son.
Yes, ma'am.
And the co-defendant is your daughter-in-law.
Yes, Your Honor.
According to your complaint, sir, your son was arrested sometime this
August.
year. Last year.
Last year.
And you made an arrangement with your daughter-in-law for a loan for his bail.
Yes.
Well, your daughter-in-law says it has nothing to do with her. Your son says he never made an arrangement with you to pay you back. As far as he was concerned, this was a gift because you're his father. Is that right, sir?
Yes, how can you sue your own sperm?
I didn't ask you for any other information other than either a yes or a no. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Don't play cute with me. Mr. Valley, how many times has your son been arrested? Only once, is that right?
Once or twice.
Once or twice. Who called you or contacted you to post his bail?
My wife and Cindy came over, told me.
Is this your wife?
Yes, ma'am.
Step up, please.
Then my son tried to hang himself.
Just a minute. Your wife and Cindy, that's
Yes,
your
Your
daughter-in-law,
Honor.
came to your house?
Yes.
Do you live with your wife?
No, ma'am.
Did you come to Mr. Valley's home and have a discussion with him about his son being in jail?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
When was that?
August.
8/16.
And did you come with your daughter-in-law?
Well, she wasn't my daughter-in-law then, but we did go together because we didn't have enough money on our own.
How did it come to pass that you came to your husband's house and asked him for money?
Well, me and my husband have always had an arrangement. If anything was to happen to the kids, we'd always get in touch with one another. Now, this was a real bad predicament of where my son was in jail, and I went to my husband 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
With Cynthia?
Yes. And I spoke with my husband, and I says to him, you know, come on, we got to help him. We always helped every one of our kids, all the time. And he gave us $1,000.
Just a minute. Were you present when Cindy had a discussion with him about paying back this money?
Yes.
Tell me about the discussion.
She said that after the trial was over or whatever, that she would pay him back whatever she could. And, you know, we were expecting the money back.
She told him that?
Yes.
Now, at that time, your husband gave you, you said $1,000.
Right.
How much was the bail?
$4,600. I provided $1,500, and then my husband called me, I'd say about 6 o'clock, and he left a message on my voicemail, and he said that he had $500 more to give us. So he said, come down and get it. I went and got it, and then we put all the money together. Nobody else put up any money except me, my husband, and Cindy.
Cindy put up some money, too?
Yes, she did.
And you put up $1,500?
I put up 15 of my own, yes.
Did you ever get that back?
No.
How come?
Well, for the first thing, my son was living in my home for a whole year. Never had him pay rent, never had him buy food until the last 2 months. Last 2 months, I became unemployed. I had thyroid surgery, so they would pay me $25 a week, and my son was merrily taking it off the bill. I says, why is he doing that? This is something that I needed for my home, you know, for my own salvation.
This was before he got arrested?
No, this is after.
After he got arrested?
Yeah.
Okay. I got it now. So he was paying you off, in his mind, for the bail by deducting some money.
Right. But he never gave anything to my husband.
Okay. Now, when did you get married?
February 22nd.
Well, Mr. Valley, you don't owe your father anything.
Thank you.
She does! Because in order to create a loan You have to have an agreement with the person, Mr. Valley.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you called your son and said, do you want me to loan you this money? And he said yes, then you do it. But she said, I'll pay you back, right?
No.
Yes, you did. I was watching your face as they were speaking. Yes, you did. You said, I'll pay you back what I can.
No. I never even spoke to him. He gave the money to Paula Valley, and from Paula Valley went to the bail bond lady.
You
While
were present with her in the house.
No, it wasn't at the house. She met him in the corner store, and I stood in the car.
And you were never there?
I was in the car.
You never spoke to him?
Never. That was the first
Miss
time I
Valley.
ever seen him.
No, you did speak with him, Cindy. You
Miss
even
Valley.
said to him. You even said
No,
to him,
tell me.
thank you.
I
Tell
never
me.
spoke to him.
Yes, you
Never.
did. Yes, you did.
Cindy, please.
Miss Valley,
Don't
you don't
bore.
don't speak. There's no question in my mind that she said, I'll pay you back. Look at her face. I'm looking at her face. There's no question in mine. She may not have meant it. She may have meant he'll pay you back.
Well, that's what she said to him later, all right? In the end of March, he come over the house. And
Who did?
My husband. And he went face to face with her. Now, my son was in the back washing his car, and Cindy was in the front, and she was coming down the stairs. I said nothing. My husband said to her, he said, hey, when are you going to pay me back? I have to go see my sister. And she says, well, you'll have to take that up with my husband. Hello? They just got married, you know? I mean, give me a break.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
This young lady was babysitting for you? You like her?
Not anymore. I know she stole the money.
If I can't trust her with cash in my house, how can I trust her with my kids?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Raphael Valley says his son and his daughter-in-law, Jose and Cynthia Valley, owe for a loan to bail Jose out of jail.
There isn't a question in my mind that Mrs. Valley, the junior Mrs. Valley, made an agreement with your husband to pay you back the bail, sir. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
That has nothing to do with your son. Of course, it's his moral responsibility, but he could not create a contract with you because he didn't speak to you. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500 against the co-defendant. Thank you. That's all.
You're excused. You may step out.
Just get my money back. It was still my son.
Never take money from family.
You needed somebody money? Write it down first.
It's all about greed.
It's been hard.
And I hope he's happy now.
He didn't like it, but it had to be done.
I just don't understand how you could sue your own son. I mean, something that you made.
I hate to tell my son, but he's going to be sued again, this time by his mother for a little bit more.
They're crazy and they need mental help.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of DeQuilla versus Roden, step forward, please.
20-year-old retail manager John DeQuilla is suing his ex-fiancée, 20-year-old assistant office manager Dawn Roden, for the return of an engagement ring. Dawn says they were never engaged.
Mr. DeQuilla, you are suing for the return of an engagement ring that you claim that you gave to the defendant.
Yes.
Let me hear about it.
Well, Dawn and I were originally together back in September of '99, and we were together until September 17th of 2000. She had gotten married after that, and she was having marital problems around the time of March of 2002, and she came to me. We talked, we were friends for a while. We started seeing each other again March 24th of 2002, and around the time about April 1st, I had proposed to her, and she
was still married at the time.
Yeah, she was. She was going through a divorce.
She wasn't living with her husband.
No, she was not. She was separated. She was living with her grandparents in Lynbrook. I proposed to her. She had accepted. The next day, we had gone to look at rings. We were just going to look, and she eventually talked me into getting an engagement ring. And I purchased the engagement ring and gave it to her that day.
On April 1st?
Yes.
Go ahead.
We were together for about almost 2 months. I was making plans on moving in. I was helping clean up the basement, get everything set up so we can move together. She was going through her custody battle. And I'd say about second week in May, we'd got into a fight. She did throw the ring into my face, and I gave it back to another friend of hers. They called me back about 10 minutes later. They picked me up. We went out. By the end of the night, everything was fine. She had the ring on her finger again, and everything was, we were fine. Not too long afterwards, I had gotten a text message saying, don't take this the wrong way. Don't call me. I'll call you. I need some time to think. I gave her about a day or so. I called her back. She said she wanted to see other people. I said, I'll live with her decision. I just wanted my ring back then. And we made an agreement that on our next class, she was going to give me the ring back.
What kind of class?
It was for financial services that we were doing for our licenses.
You were taking this class together?
Yes. We were business partners at the time. And first time she said that she had forgotten the ring. So I said, just bring it to me on our next meeting. And the day that meeting came, she never came. I called her cell phone. Her friend Janine had picked up the phone, said that Dawn was not there. I got a call later back that night saying that the ring was stolen along with her friend's car.
Who did you get the call from?
Dawn. Dawn called me back later that night.
That the ring was stolen?
Yes.
How was it stolen?
The ring was never stolen, Your Honor. There was no ring. Me and my husband had gotten separated. Me and John did remain friends, and that was around March 16th was the day I had separated from my husband. On May 8th, it was a Wednesday night, me and my friend, we went to the meeting in Lindenhurst where he had another one of his friends with him.
What kind of meeting?
It was the meeting for the financial services. It was one of those meetings. We had went back to his house, and he had to drop his friends off at the mall, so we all met back at his house. He then told me that he was going to hang out with us, and then all of a sudden he was saying that he was tired, and I'm like, oh, okay, you're tired, you know, whatever, you know, go inside. And he was like, oh, okay. He's like, but first, before I go inside, I want to show you something. He took
And what date was this?
This was on May 8th.
Go ahead.
He then proceeded to take a box out and hand me a ring. I said, what is this? He's like, I want to marry you. And I said, how can I marry you when I'm not even divorced yet? I was still very upset that me and my husband were separated. And I then threw the ring at him right after I had made a 911 call because he would not get out of my car. And my friend and I both heard the ring fall off of his chest where it had landed and hit the ground.
Because you were wearing it later that night, though. That's the odd part. Shh.
And after the fact of that, we eventually talked. I hadn't seen him with the ring the rest of the night. And we went to the karaoke bar backstage, which is located in Woodmere, New York. He then pulled my friend Janine aside, and he had told her everything that happened and how he couldn't find the ring.
Do you have the sales slip for the ring?
Yes, I do.
May I see it, please? So you say that he gave you this ring on May 8th.
Yes.
He says he gave you the ring on April 1st.
Yes, and we called
Just a second.
Okay.
Well, he certainly bought it on April 1st.
May I say one other thing?
Yes.
I have also, we did a financial needs analysis for the company that we do work for, and it is a custom thing to do it. You know, most engaged or married couples will do it, and we did it. It has both of our names on it, and the date of which this is done, and the ring is one of the debts. Her Social Security number is inside of it, and it's needed through her.
Did you fill out this report with him?
Yes, I did. We were going to become business partners.
I asked you whether you filled this out with him.
Yes.
Because it has your information on it.
Yes.
You know what date you filled it out?
I honestly do not.
May 1st. And you say that you threw a ring back at him that he gave you on May 8th.
Yes.
That you hadn't seen the ring before.
Yes.
Baloney! Madam, this lists the debt on the ring. Current debt, ring, $1,000, and the payment on the ring. You want to explain that to me, Miss Roden?
At the time that I filled it out, he only asked me my information. I was sitting in the other room with his mother and his aunt who was over at the time. The rest of the information he filled out by himself. I was not sitting at the table with him when he filled out that information.
So what? You say he gave you the ring on May 8th. He says he gave it to you on April 1st. So what you're suggesting is that he held on to the ring for 5.5 weeks before he gave it to you, right?
Yes.
And then you filled out this application together showing your income, showing your liabilities and everything else, and you knew nothing about the fact that he put in ring monthly bills.
Exactly.
Did you sign this thing? Did you sign it?
On the back of it, yes, I did. I did not.
Get out of here. I don't care whether you lost it, whether you stole it. You're full of baloney. He paid $1,149.55 for the ring. That's what you owe him. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I know there was never a ring, and I know it deep in my heart.
A lie, but, you know, I have all my information to prove it, and I did have witnesses to prove it, too.
He was very pressuring towards me.
Be careful, I trust.
He even wanted to get with one of my best friends. Why would I date him?
Totally untrue.
Don't get into something with anybody before you proceed with anything.
Healthcare worker Ann Sanchez is suing her daughter, 25-year-old homemaker Felicia Ruiz Mendoza, for an unpaid car loan and for the return of stolen property. Felicia is countersuing for the return of car payments, assault, and for filing false charges with Child Protective Services.
Order. All rise. This is case number 185 on the calendar in the matter of Sanchez versus Ruiz Mendoza. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Ms. Sanchez, the defendant is your daughter, is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Your cause of action has two parts. One is for car payments that you say you were forced to make when your daughter didn't make payments on a car that she had bought. The second thing is for items of furniture that you bought for her with certain conditions. She reneged on the conditions, and you feel as if she should be responsible for paying for the furniture, or you want it back. So let's deal with the car first. Tell me about this car.
Okay, and she had come back from Alabama in around April, May of 2001. And they
How long had she been in Alabama?
About 3-4 months. So she calls me and asks me if I could possibly help her get a car, that she had a job and she needed transportation. So I called my banker and asked him if I could borrow some money to help my daughter buy a car. And he said, well, you already have a $1,500 note now. And I said, well, I said she agreed that if I could borrow the money, that she would also pay what I had owed, you know, just so she could have transportation.
I don't understand that. Run that by me again.
I already owed $1,500. I had a note myself. I asked him if I could borrow an additional $2,700. He said, well, he could combine the two together, and the payments would be $202.29 for 24 months.
Go ahead.
This year in maybe February, March, I don't know when, she had an accident in the car, and her and her boyfriend had gone to Oklahoma, and she left the Oldsmobile down there and abandoned it. So
up until that time, she had made the car payments?
Yes.
And how much was she making in the car payments?
$202.29.
But that also included your note.
Right.
How much were you paying to the bank on your note, Ms. Sanchez?
I think mine was $85 a month.
So she paid $1,105 on your note.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
And so when she never did go get the car back, when me and my husband went over, it was a $250 deductible. Plus, I had to have new tires put on it, and I had to have it all reconditioned.
And then what'd you do with it?
Well, I sold it on August 15th.
Okay, what did you sell it for?
For $2,200.
$2,200 for the car?
The payoff was 19-something.
Say $1,900.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you had to put on new tires. And how much did you spend for new tires?
I spent $217, then I had to have all new lug nuts on it. They were $32.33.
How many payments did you make for her?
June, July. Because that she had the accident.
$672 so
She
far
first said that
is
she
what you
did
owe
it.
your daughter. That's what you owe your daughter. She didn't owe you. You owe her. Now tell me about the furniture.
Okay, she has called me. She has been to my house already 4 times this year. She's always got an excuse that her and her boyfriend are fighting and all that. And the time before last that she called, she said that he said he loved her, but he couldn't stand her kids. And so she called me crying and asked me if she could come home. And she did. And she promised she wouldn't go back, but she did. So this last time that she came, I told her that I would help her any way that I could. And I had just refinanced my home, and I was going to have some extra money. And I told her, I said, that I will help you get set up in an apartment. I will pay the deposit. I will help you get the furniture that you need to set it up for you and the boys if you're willing to stay here in Gainesville and not go back to him. Oh, I'm not going back, Mom, I promise. So I bought her a sofa and love seat. There was a TV and VCR that was bought. I paid $150 down deposit on the apartment for her. I have all the stuff here.
And then she went back to the boyfriend?
Yes, she did.
So how long did she stay in the apartment that you lived in?
She never moved in, Your Honor. She went and got the cashier's check and cashed it back in for the money.
Did you cash the check that your mother gave you for down payment on an apartment?
No, I put the deposit.
What cash did your mother give you for the apartment?
She didn't give me any cash. I put the deposit. I have the receipt. It's in my name and everything.
Did you
Yes,
give her money?
I wrote her a check, Your Honor, for $150 cash because they wouldn't take a personal check at the apartment complex. I gave her a $150 check. She went to the bank, and while she's in the bank, she filled it out into her name, so that way she could get it back.
I believe your mother. I believe your mother. Don't lie. You know, I mean, so far, you're in pretty good shape. Your mother owes you $672. But don't lie to me, because that makes me feel stupid. Did your mother give you a check for $150?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Your Honor, I love my
Jump
daughter.
up. Just a minute. I got it. I got the drill. No, I got the drill. What other cash did you give her?
I bought the sofa and love suit for her.
Forget about the sofa and love seat. According to what you just testified to me, you said to her, I'm going to help you get set up, but you have to promise me you're not going to go back to this jerk. And she said to you at the moment, I promise you I'm never going to go back to this jerk.
Yes, sir.
The other part of what you would have to say in order to make that kind of an agreement is, that's binding is, and if you go back to him, you must return to me the furniture or the value of the furniture. Do you understand?
Well, I did say that at one time.
Well. But that's not what you told me. You told me what the conversation was with her. How old are your children?
7 and 5.
Now, Mr. Dreamboat, is he the father of either of these children?
No, ma'am.
What kind of work does he do?
Excuse me?
What word didn't you understand that I just said?
He doesn't work.
Does he not work because he is in some way physically challenged?
No, ma'am. He has we're trying to file for disability for him.
So he's in some way physically challenged?
He has to have surgery, but since he's older, he can't have tubes in his ear. He has drainage that cause real bad migraines.
How much older is he than you are?
He's 34.
A 34-year-old unemployed somebody who wants to put drains in his ears because he gets headaches and he can't work. Let me ask you this question. And you know, I've been around the block a couple of times. How many times have you called the police with regard to domestic violence in your home? Make sure that I get a correct answer.
1 time.
It'd take a lot for you to call the police to come to your house because...
No, ma'am.
Really not? You mean there was just a little yelling?
No, he yelled at me and I called the police because he was throwing things.
He was being violent around your 2 children who are how old? 5 and 7.
Yes, ma'am.
And he's not the father of those 2 children.
No, ma'am.
How many times have you had to move away because of him?
2 times.
How old are you?
25.
Do your 5 and 7-year-old sons have the same father?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Is he employed?
Yes, ma'am.
Does he have any communication with the children?
No, ma'am.
Is that by his choice?
Yes, ma'am.
Another idiot. So now you're 24, 25, and have chosen 2 losers that I know about.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You want to be a bum magnet. That's your problem. Grow up.
And later today,
All the walls were torn out.
We had talked about it months before.
He said it was the spur of the moment, his exact words.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ann Sanchez says her daughter, Felicia Ruiz Mendoza, owes for an unpaid car loan. Ann says Felicia abandoned the vehicle out of state.
You can't do this anymore. I don't care if you never have a boyfriend the rest of your life. Either that, or take your 2 sons, get down on your knees, beg your mother, say, listen, I made a mistake. Could you please take care of your grandsons? But you're going from one place to another place to another place, going from one loser to another with 2 little boys who are the innocents. Why do you want to do that? I mean, you have a counterclaim that your mother assaulted you when you told her you were leaving again?
I didn't.
I don't even want to hear the story. I don't even want to hear the story. It's a good thing you got a hair left in your head. She doesn't want you, who she loves, or especially 2 innocent grandchildren, to keep going through this migrant lifestyle that you've selected for your children. It's terrible. You made car payments on the car for a year, $200 a month? That's part of your counterclaim. Where can you rent a car for less than $200 a month? Anywhere? In the world?
No, ma'am.
Not as far as I know. So you don't get that back. The next part of your counterclaim is that your mother called Child Protective Services on you.
Yes, ma'am.
Probably with good cause. from what I hear and from my life's experience, probably with good cause. You called Child Protective Services? Yeah. Oh, and what did you tell them?
I told them that I was worried about my two grandsons, that they were living in a real bad area in town, and that both of them had a drinking problem, and they have the kids in the car going up and down the highway all the time. In October 2000, they were also called because the children were left in the house alone while she was out running around somewhere. She had left them in the care of a small little girl.
This 34-year-old with the tubes in his ears, he has a drinking problem?
Yes, they both do.
Both do.
All the time they're drinking. I mean, they don't buy cans, they buy the big quarts.
Your children here today in court?
No, ma'am.
Where are they?
They're at home.
With whom?
With Carlos.
Carlos isn't well enough to be employed, but he's well enough to watch your two sons?
Yes, ma'am.
Other than watching your two sons, does Carlos have any biological children of his own?
Yes, ma'am.
How did, you know that I knew that? So at least there's something about Carlos that works. How old are his children?
He, 12, 11, and 10, or 9.
So this bum isn't paying any child support either because he's got tubes in his ears. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you getting my drift?
Yes, ma'am.
You better grow up. You made two babies. They are innocent. You're guilty. If you brought them into the world, and you brought them into the world with somebody who's not interested in being their father, then it's your responsibility to be both mother and father to them. And you're not supposed to introduce them to another person who's a bum. You want to be a bum magnet. That's your problem. But you have two children. And if you want to be a bum magnet, then you have to do the right thing and you have to turn over custody of your children to your mother. I mean, how do you know that Carlos isn't home right now drinking a big brew and sitting around and watching television or doing whatever he's doing? How do you know that?
I don't.
You don't. You don't know whether he's hitting them. You don't know whether he's angry with them. You don't know whether he's locking them in a closet. You don't know whether he's drunk. You don't know what the hell he's doing. And that's better off for your children than being with their grandmother. Grow up! Your counterclaim's dismissed. So is your claim. And I want to tell you something. You have a responsibility. If you believe that your grandsons are being neglected, you have a responsibility to petition for custody in a family court. Now, you may not get it, but if you don't at least take that step and something happens to your grandsons, you're going to be sorry for the rest of your life. Do you understand? That's all. Bye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I thought the judge was fair. Like I said, it wasn't about money. It was about principle. How, you try to help your children and the way they stabbed you in the back, more or less.
There was no reason for her to bring me here. I didn't owe her anything.
Like Judge Judy said, he's a bum. He's a no-working alcoholic.
Reservations agent Rosemary Harris is suing her son's former common-law wife, 25-year-old customer service rep Rebecca Cardisco, for a series of unpaid loans. Rebecca says the money was meant for her children's Christmas gifts.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 193 on the calendar in the matter of Harris versus Cardisco.
Thank you, Bird.
Quite welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Miss Harris, is this your son?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this the son that has two children with this lady?
Yes, ma'am.
It is your claim that the defendant owes you some money for a series of loans. She and your son, I assume, lived together or were together for a period of time because, according to what I've read, they have two children together.
Yes, ma'am.
How old are your grandchildren?
3 and 1. And John also has 2 stepsons, which were Rebecca's children.
Well, they were never married.
No, but he has custody of them.
He has custody of her 2 children that are not his biological children.
Yes, ma'am.
So you have custody of all 4 children. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
What is wrong with you? Shh, quiet.
We went through we're going through custody right now.
No. I could understand when you have a custody dispute involving parents, 2 biological parents, judge has to weigh what's in a child's best interest. But when a judge, unless the judge is educated on Jupiter, gives non-biological children to not even a step-parent, because the 2 of you were never married, to somebody else, there has to be something wrong with you. Do you have a drug problem, an alcohol problem?
I did, Your Honor. I did have a drug problem, and he doesn't have full custody of the children. It's going through social services.
Well, but who do they live with 5 days a week?
Right now, him.
Fine. So, and they go to school from his house?
Yes.
So right now he has custody?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you in a drug program?
Yes, I am.
Did you go into a residential program?
When I get back in town, I am.
So you are not now in a residential drug program?
No, but I'm in an outpatient program right now.
How long were you using drugs?
For 3 years. After I had my daughter, I got in a car wreck and had a lot of back problems.
Oh, everybody has back problems. But not everybody becomes addicted to drugs. Okay. Tell me about the loans.
Okay. Basically met Becky in March of '98 when she was living with her another boyfriend in the same complex we did. They broke up and she needed a place to stay, and she finagled her way into my house and lived with us for a couple of months, and then her and John started a relationship. Then the first grandchild was born in 9 of '99, and from that point on, it started being just a big con. Every couple months, every couple weeks, she needed this or needed that or needed help with this. Then they broke up for a while, and she had her own apartment and would hold the baby almost hostage. If you want to see your granddaughter, you'll give me this. She had a car wreck in 11 of '99, and that's when she got her back hurt and started taking Vicodin and Zoma and got addicted to them. And then she got pregnant again with my second granddaughter and had her
Also no testament to his good judgment.
Yes.
Okay.
And she was born in March of 2001.
Now, when she lived with you, she also lived with you with her other 2 children.
Yes, ma'am. I supported her and her 2 children then. And then, after the second baby was born, she really got deep into the drugs. She, at one point, had 8 drug felonies on her. 2 of them were where she used my name to get the drugs. And she was actually able to con her way out of those charges. She got something called drug court, where she gets to go in and talk to somebody once a week. And
at what point did they remove the children?
In May of this year.
Were either of the girls born with any sort of drugs in their system?
No, ma'am.
Were either of them tested?
No, ma'am, so there's no way to know for sure.
Where does your son live now, Miss Harris?
My son lives in Fort Collins with the children, and I travel there every day to help him with the children.
Stand there. Who takes care of the children?
Oh, I do. My mother helps.
You work?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
Construction.
How do you support yourself?
Right now, I don't have a place to live. That's why when I go back, I'm going into treatment.
How do you expect her to give you any money?
In July of this year, Becky claimed she got a $50,000 insurance settlement.
Did
she
you?
went out and bought a new car.
No, I
Did
didn't.
you?
No, I didn't. My grandmother.
Did you get any money?
My grandmother gave me a couple thousand to get me a car so I could get a job.
And what'd you do with the car?
It broke down.
Did you ever tell Miss Harris that you got a settlement for something?
I did tell her I had gotten some money and that I would give her some. I did tell her that. But I didn't have any. And as far as...
You didn't have any what?
I didn't have any money.
So what you told her was a lie?
Yes, Your Honor.
How much money do you owe her?
I do owe her money. She did give me money for Christmas. I'm not going to say I don't owe her anything, because I do.
So I'm asking, how much do you owe her?
I don't know for sure. I mean,
how much does she owe you for Christmas?
For Christmas alone, $800. But prior to that, I gave her $500 for rent in November, $500 again rent for January and and I even had to take loans out from where I worked for me to survive because I was giving her money.
Did you expect to get that money back?
Yes,
Ms.
I
Harris,
did.
my question is, seriously, did you expect to get that money back from her? And I mean, you can get a judgment, but I'm going to ask you honestly.
Yes, ma'am.
Where is she going to get the
would,
money from?
She would actually sit there on the phone in front of me and be talking to the insurance guy. Actually sit there talking to him, but she actually wasn't talking to him. And she was having a conversation with nobody. Yes, I'll come down and get that check. At one point, I mean, several times she was supposed to pick up a check. She had John and I believing she got a $50,000 check. She was throwing money around. She went and got a $150 perm. She gave me a $100 bill one time to thank me for watching her kids because she'd been out of the house for almost 3 months. I actually thought she was getting a settlement. Then I find this letter in the house. She settled for next to nothing in November of 2000.
Let me see.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You didn't tell them that you were settling it. You just wanted the money right away.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, I know. But if you're doing drugs, you need some money for drugs. Nonsense! Nonsense!
And later today,
if she's the co-signer on a note for your car, then you're supposed to pay for the car.
Right, which I pay her for.
Let's go slowly, Mr. Gaffney. My father didn't raise idiots.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rosemary Harris says her son's former common-law wife, Rebecca Cardisco, owes for several unpaid loans. Rosemary claims Rebecca is a drug addict.
So you settled this accident claim despite the fact that you had an attorney. How much did you settle it for?
I think it was around $800. The attorney said that they couldn't get any more, and if they could, it was going to take a long while.
You didn't tell them that you were settling it. You just wanted the money right away.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, I know. That's what you did. You had a lawyer. They got fed up with you because you settled with this company after they had made some expenditures. But if you're doing drugs, you need some money. You need some money for drugs. Look, as far as I can see, she owes you for 3 months' rent and $800 for Christmas. She doesn't know how much she owes you. That's $2,300. Has she, I assume, not given you any child support for the 3 children?
Not as of yet, no.
Have you worked in the last 5 years?
Yes, Your Honor, and he did receive child support last month.
How much?
I gave him $500.
From where?
Between him and his mother.
From where?
I got some money from my grandmother.
From your grandmother?
She gave me some money to give him for the children. He said that he needed it for the children. And I have a job.
Do you use drugs or do you sell them occasionally?
I don't do either. I've been clean.
Judge, there is a judgment now. She's supposed to pay $575 a month.
Good. That's what she's supposed to do. Somebody else is taking care of your children. In the meantime, she owes you $2,300. Miss Cardisco, I wish you good luck in residential treatment. If you want it to be successful, you have to stay there. You can't go in there for 6 weeks, or for 4 weeks, or for 12 weeks and say it's over. You have to stay there. What is it, a year or 18 months? Is that what they want you to stay?
60 days. 60 days.
Nonsense! Nonsense! Bert and I were in family court between us for more years than you're alive. And no residential program where you just go for 60 days is going to keep you off drugs permanently. You have to go into a drug-free environment for a long time. You've been on drugs for at least 3 years. Don't kid yourself. 60 days is not going to do it. 30 days is not going to do it. You have to do it. You have children. You made children. They need you. Do you get it? They need you. Stay with it. Find the right place and stay there. You're a young woman. How old?
25.
25. Got a lot of years ahead. They can be miserable. You can have a miserable life or you can have a happy life. You still have another 50 years of happiness or you have 50 years of misery. Choice is yours. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Becky's nothing but a con.
I do have problems and I have issues, but they're not any better than I am. Any better.
I'm the primary caregiver because Becky's a drug addict.
I never kept her grandchildren from her. I was afraid she was going to try to take off or do something with them. I didn't know what she's capable of. I mean, she just made me look like an idiot in there.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of D'Antuono versus Holdren. Step forward, please.
26-year-old hairstylist Stephanie D'Antuono is suing her ex-boyfriend, personal trainer Thaddeus Holdren, for an unpaid loan to buy a car. Thaddeus says the money didn't become a loan until they broke up.
Mr. D'Antuono, I've read your complaint. You claim a loan to the defendant who was your live-in boyfriend for a period of time. Is that right?
Yes.
It was a loan for a car?
Correct.
And any other expenses?
Yes, for work that needed to be done on the car.
Mr. Holdren said there was never a loan. His position is that he played the role of house husband.
Yes.
That you have a child that he took care of, and he was a personal trainer. He gave up some time in order to be able to accommodate your schedule, and there was never talk of a loan until two of you separated. So when did you start to live together?
We began to live together only after I had given him the loan. It was in August.
Tell me about the loan.
Thaddeus approached me about loaning him some money for a car that he wanted to buy. I had the funds to help him out, and we discussed it in detail. That
Well, what were the details?
How he had to pay me back. There was no confusion as far as...
Well, no, don't tell me there was no confusion. Just tell me what the agreement was. You said it was very specific, so tell me the agreement.
I agreed to loan him the money if he agreed to pay me back in full.
Is that as specific as it went?
Pretty much, yes.
Go ahead.
He agreed to pay me within a certain amount of time.
Well, that's more specific. What was the amount of time?
A couple of months.
Okay.
And when he didn't, he told me he was having some problems and wasn't going to be able to pay me at that certain time. So I was upset, but I agreed to allow him more time if he would give me payments. Whenever he had money, if he could give me some cash or, whatever he was able to do.
So?
So he didn't. He failed to pay me.
When did you move in with him?
He moved in with me.
When did he move in with you?
That was about a year later.
So 1 year later, he's made no payments on this loan, and then you move in together.
Well, he...
Just answer my question.
Sorry. Yes, that's right.
Okay. And you lived together for a year?
No, we did not. We only lived together for about 2.5 months.
Your Honor, I lived with her longer than that.
He was at my house on a regular basis, but he did not live there.
Fine. When did that start?
Probably around the time that I gave him the loan. He was staying there maybe a couple nights a week.
More than a couple nights, Your Honor.
That's not correct.
It's over 2 years since this loan was made.
Yes.
And over that period, you have not gotten any payments.
He did pay me $150.
When?
In April of 2001.
Is that right, sir?
I don't know if it was 2001, but I paid her $150. But that's not including everything I did for her and her son.
What did you give her $150 for, Mr. Holdren?
Because, if I'm with her, I'm living with her, whatever, I expect to do something, taking care of her son and taking care of stuff around the house and stuff.
That doesn't answer my question, Mr. Holdren. What was the $150 for?
Just for her.
Well, tell me how that came about, the $150 payment.
She gave me the money and things happened. Hold on.
Mr. Holdren, you're trying to think about the right answer. I don't want you to think about the right answer, sir. I want you to think about the truthful answer. You said to me, I gave her $150 when I asked you what it was for. You did a song and dance. Now, I'm asking you the circumstances surrounding you giving her this $150 in March.
Well,
if you say I don't remember what it was for or the surrounding circumstances around it, I will understand that.
Well, I gave her money a couple times, so the $150 is like me giving her money on a regular. Not on a regular, but I gave her money, like any other boyfriend would do. It wasn't like I was giving her $2,000 or like big money, but
Do you remember the circumstances surrounding the $150 payment? The answer is either yes or no.
Yes.
Then tell me what they were.
It was payment for money that I loaned him.
That's not what I asked you. That is the conclusion.
The circumstances?
If you don't remember, say I don't remember. Remember that I will test you. If you don't remember, say it. If you remember, tell me.
I don't remember.
Did he give you any other money during the course of your relationship over the last 2 years?
He paid me $100 after our relationship had ended. This was this past April.
What was the $100 for?
For payment from the loan that I gave him.
Did you give her $100 after you separated?
Yes.
For what?
That was for part of her thinking that I owed her all that money. So $100.
That was
part of me owing her the money.
That was part of her thinking that you owed her the money from the loan?
Right.
Oh, good, that makes it easier. So you did, Mr. Holdren, make a payment to her for this $2,000 loan.
Right.
And you made at least one payment. Is that right?
Right.
And that was made within the past year or so?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to allow you in 30 seconds or less, Mr. Holdren, explain to me why this was not a loan and you don't owe her any money.
Okay, I'll start off with this. We made an agreement when we met. Well, after we met, she has a son. He's 4. Well, he was 4 at the time. And her job is very demanding, and she has different hours every day, like early in the morning sometimes and late in the evening sometimes. And her son goes to school early in the morning. She couldn't take him to school, so I would take him to school, get him up, get him dressed, pick him up from daycare, bring him back with me, and wait till she gets off, and he'd hang out with me, whatever, for the period of time, whatever day it was.
So I'm listening. Keep going.
Yeah. I did everything. I was like a kindergarten cop with him. This whole thing to me is just like she was pimping me through the whole thing. Like, she's my female pimp.
That's a nasty thing to say.
That's how it was, because I was doing everything, but she still just seemed like I owed her this whole $2,500.
Well, let me ask you this question, Mr. Holdren. How much rent did you pay?
I didn't pay rent at her house.
How much did you contribute on a regular basis for food for the house?
Depending if I went out to eat or...
No, in the house.
Little.
How much did you contribute regularly towards the utilities?
None.
So you were basically living rent-free. You had no expenses.
Your Honor, I have my own apartment, too.
Where is your apartment?
At the time, it was on the other side of town from where she lived at, on the west side.
Which side is nicer? Her side.
Yeah.
Mr. Holdren, anything else you want to tell me, sir?
I just felt like I don't owe her the whole $2,500. I mean...
So you don't think you owe her the whole $2,500?
Right.
Tell me what part of the $2,500 you think you owe her?
It would really be hard to say because...
Well, I want you to think hard. I mean, it was your statement that I don't owe her the whole $2,500.
I don't know because the time that I put into the relationship, not only with her, but her son too, it was like I couldn't really tell because I was working in the morning and in the afternoon, and my schedule was flexible because I was a trainer. So I, arrange it where, I could make it a better...
Mr. Holdren,
yes.
What part of the $2,500 do you think you should be given credit for, sir?
I don't know.
So I guess you'll have to leave it up to me, right?
Well, I was hoping you'll feel my side of the story as far as me taking care of her son and everything. Because
no, Mr. Holdren, I'm going to make it very, very easy for you, sir. If there is a contract that provides, even an oral one, that you loaned me this money for the car, and I'm going to work it off by taking care of your son at $1.75 an hour while I'm taking care of him. That will be my contribution, so we're going to take that off the car loan. That's an agreement. But after the fact, you don't make that sort of an agreement. You don't sit back there and scratch your head and say, well, I did all these things for her. Therefore, I shouldn't have to owe her that much on what was originally a loan. Do you understand?
Yes.
That's just a lot of double talk that you're doing for me now. $2,500 was the original loan, and you paid her $250. So judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,250. That's all.
You are excused. You may step out.
I'm just glad that she could see through Thaddeus's lies.
I felt that I shouldn't have to pay that whole amount.
His excuses for why he wasn't paying me.
I felt that I owed her a little bit, but not that much.
I just got tired of his irresponsibility.
I mean, I would have paid her a little bit, but $2,000 for the work that I did.
It was always, I'll loan you, I'll give you money when I get it.
I did do a lot for her and her son.
I finally realized he was never going to pay me back unless I did something about it.
That's how things go.
Not to do it again.
Real estate broker Karen Hesevic is suing Richard Boudreau and Mary Whitney for making a false complaint to her employer and causing her to be fired.
Order. All rise. Hello. Okay. Yeah, this is case number 244 on the calendar in the matter Hesevic versus Boudreau Whitney. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Ms. Hesevic, it is your complaint that because of the defendant's conduct in reporting certain behavior that really never happened on your part, that you lost your job. You want to be compensated for that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the defendants say that they had some business dealings with you. They found your conduct unacceptable. They reported that to your boss, and they had a legitimate right to do that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. What kind of business were you in?
I sold gutter cover to keep debris out of gutters.
And how long had you worked for them?
About 4 or 5 months.
How did you find the defendants, or they found you?
They called in, I think, on a radio ad.
Is that true?
That's correct, Your Honor. Yeah.
Okay. What happened that caused you to call and make a complaint about the plaintiff?
Your Honor, basically it was just Karen's behavior. We were very interested in the product. It looked very good, and I expressed to her in the beginning.
Tell me what the product looks like.
It's actually a sheet metal device that goes over your gutter to deflect the needles and leaves off the gutter and allow the water to go in. Awesome product. Anyhow, we were very interested in the product. Karen came out to the house. We asked her to do an estimate. She left me with a tape and a sample of the product. I expressed to her that I wanted my wife to see the tape because she wasn't home at the time.
What date was that?
I believe that was the Saturday, the 24th, I believe was that was the date, yeah. Anyhow, she expressed to me that she needed the tape back. It was her last tape. And I clearly understood that and promised her we'd get it back to her. My wife got home late that evening, didn't get a chance to view the tape. The next day, she did, which was a Sunday. We in turn decided at that point that we had some friends that would be interested in the product as well. So we figured we'd hang on to it till Monday and get it back to her. Over the weekend, Karen left several nasty grams on my telephone, on my cell phone, expressing her desire to get the product back.
The tape back.
Right. Come Monday, she made a phone call or two to the house, which my wife, Whitney, answered, and she can tell you basically what took place there.
She called me on the phone, and she says, I really need to get my tape back. And I said, well, I got a friend that owns a gutter company, and I wanted to let them see it to see if they thought it was credible, that it might work. And she goes, well, I really need to get my tape back. I says, well, do you only have one tape? She goes, yep, I only have one tape. I go, well, okay, fine. I said, come get it. And she did.
On what date did she come?
It was on Monday evening.
which would have been the 26th, Your Honor.
Okay, so what happened when plaintiff came and got the tape?
At that point, Your Honor, I'd arrived home from work, and I got a knock on the door, and it was Karen. She was obviously upset. I said nothing at first, went and got the tape, handed it to her, and said, I apologize that you didn't get it back as quick as you wanted based on the messages I retrieved. She was obviously upset. She got cranky with me and, grabbed it out of my hands and was obviously not real happy about the whole thing. And I said, Karen, the product that you're representing is awesome. I love it. We're interested in it. But the way you're treating me, I'm not going to buy anything from you. Her response was, I don't want to sell you anything. And I said, fine. Then I asked her to leave or I'd call the police. Now, several days went by and I got a subpoena served to our house, and it referred to a Bruce Hesevic was suing us for something. Now, I never met a Bruce. I haven't got a clue who Bruce was. So I was shocked. I didn't know what it was all about. In doing further research, I recognized the last name, which is on the back of her flyer, Hesevic and then Karen. So
What kind of subpoena did you get?
I got a small claims subpoena that said my wife and I, who she never met, Your Honor, were being sued for loss of income, libel, malicious behavior, slander, and so on.
May I see it, please?
Sure.
Now, in between during that week's period of time, had you in fact called the plaintiff's employer?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you left that part out.
I beg your pardon,
sir.
ma'am. I did call the gutter people I spoke to, Mr. Steve, and I expressed my interest in this product. And I said, a lady named Karen came to our house to show your product over the weekend, left us a tape. We wanted to view the tape for a longer period of time. She took it back, was very upset with me for keeping it. Can you please send me another tape? And he said, well, you're saying Karen? And I'm saying, yes, Karen. He says, well, I have no Karen working for me. He goes, there is a Bruce that works for me in that area. You sure it wasn't a man? I says, no, it was a lady named Karen. Fine, I'll send you a copy of the tape. Then a short while after that, we had a sheriff come to our house looking for us. We weren't there. We were at a PTA meeting. My boys told us.
And then you got served with
Served
this
after, yep. Okay. And then I went down to the courthouse and filed for a jury trial, figuring I'm going to get this thing out in the open.
Okay, now I got you.
Bingo.
And it would be fair to say that in your conversation with Mr. you voiced some displeasure with the salesperson.
Absolutely.
You did. You said, I don't like the way I'm
Absolutely,
being treated. I didn't like the way I was treated.
No, I'm a sales manager, Your Honor, and I think when you want to make a sale, you're nice to people.
Bruce and Karen, same person?
Yes.
Okay, so that's both you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you went to work for this gutter cover company, did you interview with this Mr.?
Yes. I actually did sales before I ever met him, and then...
For the same company?
Yeah, I was working for the previous franchisor, and he came down after that. I sold several deals before that.
When you interviewed and worked for them previously, you worked for them as Bruce.
Right.
To your knowledge, did this Mr. know that you were also Karen?
We had talked about it. I called the office and said that there would be a person as Karen out there, and that my hair was long, and that people do see me as a woman.
You intend to maintain that persona?
Yes.
My problem, Ms. Hesevic, is that you seem to ascribe some behavior to the defendants, which is actionable. Why do you believe that they do not have a right to call your employer and say, I'm dissatisfied with the kind of treatment that I got from your rep. I like the product. I'm interested in buying the product. And if your employer decides, for whatever reason, to let you go, why do you feel as if you have the right to sue the defendants?
Because when I talked to Steve on Tuesday, he told me that the severity of their complaint against me was such that he had to believe that they were telling the truth. I told him they were not telling the truth, and then I told him exactly what happened. And as she said, she told me to come out and pick up the tape. On the phone call, she did not say that. She hung up on me. And I have copies of the phone call that was made to him. He said I made several threatening phone calls.
You went out there to get the tape?
Yes.
No, I said nasty grams. I didn't say phone call.
Nasty grams?
Yeah, on my cell phone.
When you went out there to get the tape, tell me what happened.
Well, I got out of my car. Their kids yelled from the top of the deck that the lady from the gutter is here. And I heard her yelling at her kids, I don't want to talk to her. Tell them to go down to the basement door and talk to the father. And so they came out and told me that. So I went around under the deck into the basement door that they have there. He opened the door part way and handed me the tape, and he said some remarks to me. And I said, well, you promised to have it back to me by 5 p.m. on Saturday. I said, you never called? He said, oh, yes, I did. But I was at home from 3 o'clock all the way till 10 o'clock at night. There wasn't one phone call. I have a message machine on my machine.
There you go. That's why you didn't answer it.
And
sorry.
No messages were even left.
Nope. That's
so,
true.
So, yeah.
So?
And, yeah, so he didn't call to say he wasn't going to meet me. He could have left a message machine on there. He knew that the
So what
tape
did you
was
say
important.
to him?
He made some comments, and then I told him that I had to use that for sales, and that as he knew I had appointments on Monday morning, I didn't get the tape till 7 o'clock Monday night.
And?
So he says, well, you're losing more business.
You forget the golden credo,
yep.
which is the customer's always right.
Want me to deliver the damn tape? I'm sorry.
The customer's always right. Because you had a real live customer there. You had a customer who was really interested in your product.
$6 grand.
Listen.
I'm sorry.
That's a hothead. Let me ask you this question. Why didn't you call Gutter and have them give you another tape?
I had sent a memo up to him on Monday morning saying that I need another tape.
Why didn't you go there?
Oh, they're out of Seattle, and I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, so they have to send it to you.
Yeah.
Why did you wait until you were down to your last tape?
I only had one tape all the time.
Well, that sounds like a not very good policy. What happens if that
that's
tape?
all the company gives.
Well, that's kind of stupid.
Right, yeah.
You don't have a cause of action, Ms. Hesvik. He has an absolute right to call the company and say, I don't like her attitude. I don't like the way she spoke to me. I was interested in your product. I'm still interested in your product. He's not trying to put one over on these people. He's calling and saying, listen, your lady who you sent out here was rude. She took off. She doesn't want to do business with me. I'm still interested in doing business with your company. Send me another tape and send me another rep. And if by virtue of that statement, Mr. let you go as the rep for the company in your area, so be it. It may also have been that Mr., and I don't know, he's not here, was not happy about not knowing what gender person was going out. He thought it was one gender, and it turned out to be a different gender. That's possible, too. That coupled with what they said, listen, I don't need this aggravation. But they have a right to call.
Yes.
They have a right to make a complaint. That's what the First Amendment's all about. So your claim is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Basically what happened as a result of this individual not being honest.
Some people can lie and get away with it.
Honesty's the best policy. You know, she should have been honest, and she wasn't.
Donald Haig and his wife Donna are suing their ex-son-in-law, cabinet maker Chris Webster, for the cost of a washing machine and dryer.
Order. All rise. Yes, this is case number 315 on the calendar in the matter of Haig versus Webster. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Mr. and Mrs. Haig, this gentleman used to be your son-in-law. He's married to your daughter, and they have 2 children. Is that right?
Yes.
You are suing him for the balance owed on a washer and dryer that was purchased on your credit in 1994 when the defendant and your daughter were married. You bought it for about $1,000 from Sears. Is that right?
Yes.
And they were to pay off so much per month for the remainder of their natural lives. Well, then there came a time later on that you and your husband decided to buy a 2-family house with your daughter and her husband. And you did. In what year did you buy this 2-family house?
1995.
And in that 2-family house, 4 of you and the 2 grandchildren, also came the washer and dryer, which I assumed you all used. Is that right?
Yes.
And then there came some marital difficulty. And in the year, according to what I've read here, 2000, your daughter left.
Yes.
And Mr. and Mrs. Haig, you stayed in the house for a while. Is that right?
Yes.
Then you decided to buy them out of the house.
Yes.
Now, so from 1995 until 2002, this house was owned jointly, and everybody used the washer and dryer. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Webster, when your former wife left you, what happened to the children?
They stayed with me, and I take care of them.
And they're 2 boys?
Yes.
And how old were the children at the time?
3 and 5.
Was there a custody trial with regard to the children?
Yes. I mean, in the divorce. Yes, in the divorce.
So your former wife did, at some point, request custody of the children?
No. No,
she didn't. She did not?
No. She got remarried and went on her own life.
Okay. So there was never a dispute as to who would have custody of the children? Did there ever come a time when you had problems with your in-laws?
No, not until I couldn't take it no more at the house with them at the house and everything. So
What do you mean you couldn't take it anymore?
it was just him not working, me paying more money than I'd had to, me just paying more and more and more money. Something had to be done, and that's why I bought them out. And I thought that was going to be it.
How much money did they get when you bought them?
Exactly $23,900.
How much money did you put in, sir, as a down payment on the house?
$6,500.
And you walked away with $24,000, is that right?
That's right.
It was a good investment.
Yes, it was a very good investment.
Very good. So now let me ask you this question. What in the world are you doing here? You have 2 grandchildren that he's taking care of.
Mm-hmm.
That washer and dryer was paid over the last 8 years. There's no question about that. $25 here, $50 there. Everybody used the washer and dryer. The whole washer and dryer cost $1,000 8 years ago. You just closed a property where he's living with your grandchildren, and you made a handsome profit. You explain to me why, under those circumstances, you people would be foolhardy enough to come to court and sue him.
Okay, number one, the bill wasn't paid.
Why didn't you pay it? You lived there, you used the washer and dryer. Why didn't you pay it?
Because I got sick.
Well, that's not his fault. He's got
no,
2
that
children
is
to take
that-
care of. You're
that
not
is-
his child.
that-
You got sick, you got sick.
Yeah.
What does that have to do with me? Or him? Or your 2 grandchildren if you got sick?
Well, I got sick, and when I got sick, I told him that I wanted to sell the house before we got into this financial problem. He did not want to sell the
Just
house.
a second. You wanted to sell the house after your daughter left?
Yes, right after, actually before my daughter left, I wanted to sell the house.
He lives there with your grandchildren.
I wanted to have him buy me out or sell the house so that I didn't have any obligations in the house, because I went 3 years without getting any money.
So?
And I told him I couldn't afford to pay all the payments.
So he paid. Just a
and
minute. So he paid. What you couldn't pay, he paid. Is that what you're telling me?
Not all of it.
I don't care all of it. I don't care of a piece of it. He's taking care of your 2 grandchildren. You're not related to him by blood. Your daughter goes and takes off with somebody else, remarries, has a happy life. He's staying there. He's watching your 2 grandchildren. He's got to take care of you. He's got to take care of your wife. And now you have the audacity to come to court and want a washer and dryer that you bought in 1994 that the whole family used? I don't understand you, Mr. Haig. Is there something wrong with you?
No, there isn't.
There's a lot wrong with you.
No, there isn't.
Oh, yeah, there is. Go ahead. You have 30 seconds to convince me, sir.
Okay, when we first bought it, they took and they paid all the bills. Chris and Deborah paid the bills.
Just a minute. Chris and Deborah, where was Deborah working?
At Safeway.
She was working after the 2 children were born?
Yes.
Full-time?
Part-time.
What was he doing?
He was working full-time as a carpenter.
So he's working full-time, she's working part-time at Safeway, and you're not
That's right.
working at all.
And I was working part-time myself, and it's some
So the only one working full-time is him?
That's right.
All right.
Now, I told him that I was getting worse than what because of my condition. I told him that I wanted to liquidate my part of the house so that he wasn't responsible for me. And he did not want to sell the house. He did not want to buy the house. He said he would make up the difference in the bills. I sat down and I explained to him that when we sold the house, or when I got my SSDI, that I would pay him back.
So how much did you pay him back?
I paid him
$600.
I paid him back all the money that we owed.
Oh, did he pay you back?
No.
How much did he give you?
Okay. It came down to where I offered him $20,000 for a buyout. He wanted $25,000. And it got knocked down. I paid for the $2,500 when we all bought the house together. He got that out of me. Everything that they ever put anything in downstairs, money-wise, I gave him $1,500 because they spent $3,000. I gave him $1,500. And then he told me that he wanted me to sign and pay for this washer and dryer. At the time, I was just giving him so much money and just wanted him out of my life so that I can start over and just be alone with my boys. I just said, okay, and then I never signed nothing. I just said no.
I don't know whether you signed anything or not. You paid him back. You
I
say
paid him a
what
lot
you
more.
owed him by decreasing the amount that you should have gotten when you sold the house?
Yes.
Okay, you still made a handsome profit when you sold the house. So instead of making $24,000, maybe you should have made $30,000, right? Fine. You still made a handsome profit.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You have the opportunity to be there and participate in the rearing of your grandchildren. What a gift that could be. if you were nice people.
And later today,
When the landlord showed up the 20th to get rent, he saw holes in the walls that they left in their room and in the door.
Did you make any holes in the walls?
No, ma'am, I did not. Her and her boyfriend be fighting all the time. That's where the holes came from.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Donald and Donna Haig claim ex-son-in-law Chris Webster owes for the cost of a washer and dryer. Chris says the Haigs have been ignoring their grandchildren.
Listen, Mr. and Mrs. Haig, do you see your grandchildren?
Right now, no.
Why is that?
Because we don't see him.
I'm asking you why.
Because the feelings between him and I,
What kind of feelings?
it's bad.
Why?
I don't
Over what?
understand.
Over what?
Over the payment. Because
Over the
he's,
washer dryer?
Over the washer and dryer. And also, when I went to talk to him about it, he called the cops up, and the cops told me not to come back to the house. Because if I came back to the house, I would be arrested.
Okay. Now, why don't they see their grandsons?
I have no idea. His birthday, my 8-year-old son, Brandon, his birthday was this past Monday. Not one card, not one phone call, not nothing.
Did you send your grandson a birthday present?
Yes, I did.
You sent him a birthday
Yes,
present?
I sent him a card. Yes, I did.
Card. Children like cards. They like presents. Why didn't you send him a birthday present?
Because I had put money in the card for his birthday present.
I don't believe that at all. Listen, if I construe this as a debt, I construe it as a joint debt. As far as I'm concerned, that debt should have been over. Certainly, 8 years later, the statute of limitations has run on that debt in any jurisdiction. And in this court, we use the doctrine of latches, which means if you sit on your laurels and you don't collect the debt, then it's forgiven. More importantly, I don't understand why grandparents, when they have a daughter who takes off, starting a new life, mothers usually don't do that, that are wrapped too tight. Got 2 little boys that she leaves with the father. You're living with the father, so you have the opportunity to be there and participate in the rearing of your grandchildren. What a gift that could be if you were nice people. What a wonderful opportunity that would be for you, madam, to say, look, my daughter's not here full-time. I got the 2 little boys. He's a carpenter. He works full-time. You know, I can be here. I can help shop and cook and take care of the boys if I want to. You're worried about a washer and dryer purchased in 1994. Your priorities are all screwed up, and I have no time for you. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step back.
I'm just glad it's over.
I don't think it was fair.
I don't know how much more money I have to pay.
I'm very upset about it.
Anytime they ever want to do anything with their grandkids.
Oh, I'd like to be part of their lives.
All they have to do is just call.
I want to see everybody together, except I don't want nothing to do with Chris.
Construction worker Todd Newens is suing his ex-wife, daycare provider Nancy Newens, for an unpaid loan for bail after they both were arrested for welfare fraud.
Order. Come to order. All rise. Hello. Now, this is case number 322 on the calendar in the matter of Newens versus Newens. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mr. Newens, when were you and the defendant married?
We were married in June of 1997. Or, excuse me, 1987.
And when were you divorced?
August of 1996.
Do you have children?
We have 4 children.
From 1987 till 1996, in what state did you reside?
From 1987 to 1996, we resided in California and in Wisconsin.
When did you reside in Wisconsin?
From 1992 to the beginning of 1994.
I ask you this because it is the timeline here is quite important.
Yes.
According to your complaint, after your divorce, you and your former wife were arrested here in California. And you were arrested on outstanding warrants from the state of Wisconsin for welfare fraud. According to you, there was an agreement between you and your former wife that if you paid whatever fines there were in Wisconsin, which amounted to $4,800, she would give you credit for $2,400 towards what you owed her in child support.
Correct.
Now you've been summoned to court, and you've been told by the judge that you have to pay those arrears, which are probably more substantial than $2,400.
Yes, ma'am.
And you said to her, what about the agreement we had? that you would give me credit for half of that. And she said, we don't have an agreement. So you want $2,400, which is her half of what you paid to the state of Wisconsin in order to get rid of all the charges pending against both of you.
Correct.
You were in the state of California when you were arrested, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you had an attorney?
No, ma'am.
Who told you that if you paid this $4,800, you wouldn't have to go back to Wisconsin to surrender yourself?
The district attorney of Outagamie County, Wisconsin.
Now, tell me what the welfare fraud was about from 1992 to 1994.
I believe it's for food stamps and medical aid.
How come there was fraud, sir?
I believe there was fraud because we left the state as we were on welfare to move back to California without notifying the welfare department that we were moving.
You were on welfare in Wisconsin.
We were not collecting money, Your Honor. We were collecting food stamps and we were collecting medical.
Benefits. You were collecting welfare benefits.
Yes.
Is that because you were unemployed?
I was unemployed at the time.
Who were you living with?
Nancy and I were renting a house.
Who paid for the rent on the house if you were unemployed?
We paid for the rent on the house.
How?
Because I got a job at installing garage doors. I wasn't employed the whole time. And it wasn't a sufficient amount of money to support the family. That's why we went for aid.
So your wife stayed at home with the children?
She did.
So you're telling me that they sued you for fraud for $4,800 because you left the state and they didn't have to pay you money anymore?
We basically left the state, and instead of tracking us down and figuring out that they wanted all of their benefits back, which totaled the $4,880.
Probably the only person in creation that I know that happens to. Usually they say, wow, they're out there with California's problem now. Now, Mr. Newens, how much do you owe in child support, sir?
$10,000 in child support and $10,000 in alimony.
How come you haven't paid any money?
Well, I've actually paid a lot of money, Your Honor. The reason being is because in the state of California, your ex-wife or whoever's receiving the support can go back at any time and ask for an audit of the payments, which she did. And I had a court order for my employers to pay her directly, which they did, but I had to prove it, and these two employers were no longer in business, so I could not find the record of payments.
So you're telling me that the judgment was entered against you and you have to pay arrears on $20,000 for money that you paid?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have a lawyer representing you this time?
No, ma'am. But the litigation went for a whole year. Ma'am, I can't afford a lawyer. I work 60 hours a week to support 4 kids. My ex-wife, since the day we married, has not worked at all and still doesn't to this day. She solely relies on my support to support all 4 kids.
Let me ask you this question, Ms. Newens. Now we're going to come to you. He says that you were receiving partial benefits. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Do you have any idea why you were charged with welfare fraud?
It was explained to me when, without notifying the county about our moving, there was a warrant automatically slapped on because there was an outstanding amount that needs to be paid back, like $700 some odd.
For what?
For overpayment is what they called it.
So you were notified that you were receiving overpayment of $700 while
Yes.
you were living in Wisconsin?
Yes.
And you left without paying that amount?
Yes. They were charging us interest and stuff because of penalties on that.
Now, your former husband says that he paid you this money, this $10,000 in child support and $10,000 in alimony. Is that true, that he's paid you this money?
I have, Your Honor, from the month, some partial payments, and for the last month of October, I received...
Look at me. Now you can speak.
Okay, I'm sorry. $29.90 for the month of October. $500 for the month of September, and before that, nothing. Payments are coming, and partial payments, whole payments, every now and then, off and on through the last couple of years.
Did they come right out of his check?
He's self-employed.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I would suggest you find yourself some way of earning a living that you enjoy, because otherwise you're going to be relying on him forever. And that's wrong.
And later today,
we had planned to get married, and there was an issue in that I was still married and needed to get a divorce.
That's what Ms. Harris said.
Yeah.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Todd Newens says ex-wife Nancy Newens owes for an unpaid loan for bail after they both were arrested for welfare fraud. Nancy says Todd doesn't pay his child support.
How long have you been self-employed, Mr. Newens?
Roughly 3 years.
So when you say that your employer What employer are you talking about that you couldn't find?
The court order dates back to 1997. The amount in arrears they're asking for was for 97 and 98.
Just those 2 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, so this proceeding had nothing to do with current arrears for the year 2000, 2001, 2002. Is that what you're telling me?
What they, I have a court order here that I got from them. What they dated it from 6 of 97 to 10/1 of 02 to make it current.
Mr. Newens, I don't know if you think that I'm not wrapped too tight. I asked you a question. The question I asked you was whether you were telling me that the arrears that they were talking about, that you just had a trial on, dealt with monies that you owed. You said from 97 and 98.
Correct.
And I said that they conducted a whole hearing for a year and didn't bring that amount up to the current date for arrears. And you said, oh, I have the order. And the order says that those were arrears that you owe from 97 to the year 02.
The reason why they did that, Your Honor, is because we were fighting for the last year in court over the amount of arrears. And it was my burden to prove that all my previous employers paid.
All right, forget the previous employees from 97 to 98. She says she has been receiving sporadic payments. Is that true? And now you're self-employed.
Yes, it is true.
Sometimes it's true. All right, that's what I wanted to know.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I'm going to get to it, Mr. Newens. Don't pussyfoot around me. Are you remarried?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. You have children with your new wife?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Well, let's start with August of 2002. How much money did you send to your former wife for child support and alimony in August of 2002?
Your Honor, I don't have that information with me, and the reason why I don't have that information with me is because it's quite irrelevant, because I have an order that you have before you stating the amount I have to pay in arrears of $200 per month.
That's perfect. So what are you bothering me for?
I'm asking for money owed that I can't, that I paid $4,880 for, that I can't get credit through the County of San Bernardino for child support, which had she not agreed to credit me half, I would have never made the payment. We would have flew back to Wisconsin and fought this battle in court.
So then I'm going to resolve it very quickly for you, sir.
Okay.
From 1992 to 1994, according to you, you had 2 young children, and your former wife was unemployed. She was taking care of the children. It was therefore your responsibility, your contractual responsibility with your former wife, to be the provider. You found that you could not be a provider for your wife and your 2 young children, so you were forced to apply to the state for certain benefits. Then you were advised that there was an overpayment of $700. Rather than taking care of that part of your financial responsibility before you left the state of Wisconsin, you decided to leave the state of Wisconsin and move to California. It was because of that that they issued a warrant for the both of you. You paid that amount. That's not for child support. That's not for spousal support. That's to reimburse the state for money that the state expended on behalf of you and your family because you could not fulfill your end of the contractual marital responsibility with your former wife. And in addition to that, you have continued to accrue arrears over the years, the last 3 years when you've been self-employed. Sometimes you pay, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you send a little, sometimes you send a lot. That doesn't excuse you from working at some point. Are you working now?
Yes, I am.
Good. What kind of work do you do?
Right now I do child care. And in the past I was doing dental assisting.
Well, I would suggest you find yourself some way of earning a living that you enjoy.
Exactly.
And if it's not child care, because child care sometimes is a temporary thing that you do when your children are very little, because that's a way to take care of your responsibility as a stay-at-home parent and also make some extra money. But I'm going to strongly urge you to find a career that you like, because otherwise you're going to be relying on him forever. And that's wrong for your support. You both have to support these children. You both made them now. You're not living together. You're not married. You both have to support them. But she certainly isn't going to give you back $2,400 for money that you owe the state of Wisconsin, sir. Your complaint's dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Nancy's been on a free ride for many years, refusing to work.
It should be said and done. It was over in court beforehand.
After she got out of jail, she's free. The bill's paid. It's the heck with me.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Morin versus Baird, step forward, please.
Photo technician Joanne Morin is suing her ex-fiancé, construction plans examiner James Baird, for the cost of a cruise ticket. James is countersuing for the return of a suit and for the cost of a vasectomy.
All right, Bert, I've read the papers in this case. Don't get comfortable. We're not going to be long. Okay. Miss Moran, you and the defendant dated. You were supposed to go on a cruise together. You couldn't go because a relative, I think your father, became ill. The defendant went with 2 of his children, but your son had paid for the cruise ticket. In any event, you say that he owes you $200. He says, more than happy to give you the $200, right? Give me back my suit that I left at your house. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
That's the suit?
Yes, ma'am.
Give him the suit, Bert. I told you, this case has lots of little parts, but we're going to handle them all very quickly. Good. Now you have your suit. The suit goes on your side, and plaintiff gets $200. Are you happy? Good. On your side, you have a counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
Your counterclaim is twofold. A, you wanted your suit back, you got your suit. You want her, A, to give you back the engagement ring.
Oh, the money for it, yes.
Where's the engagement ring?
I have it with me right here.
Perfect.
You want to see?
No. Goes back. Goes to his team. Happy now? Almost.
Almost.
The other part you're not going to even be happy that you raised, sir. You want her to pay for a vasectomy that she insisted that you have because she didn't want any more children.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Did she grab you by the hand and take you to the doctor?
No, she...
Very good. Then you don't get paid for the vasectomy. You're over 21, you made a choice. If you don't like the choice, you'd have to live with it or get it reversed. Goodbye and good luck. That takes care of this.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Actually made a lunch date with his brother to discuss the vasectomy. He discussed it more with his brother than he had with me.
I tried to avoid the whole situation, and it wasn't avoidable.
I think the worst part about the whole thing is that innocent people had gotten hurt because of our actions.
When you fall in love with somebody and they want you to have an operation, I think you ought to think twice.
A dog attack.
Mr. Ali, you bought yourself a Tesla.
Yes, ma'am.
A new one?
Yes.
When did you buy it?
I bought it on 6th of June.
Of this year?
Yes.
How much did you pay for it, sir?
$68.
And there was a loan on the car?
There's a loan on the car, yes.
So you have full insurance on the car?
Yes.
What's your deductible?
Deductible is $1,000.
$1,000?
Yes.
This is what your case is about. You were going to check on a child's house of yours.
Yes, ma'am. It's my son's house. I go there every day. We bought that house for on my son's and my name. It's for my...
Oh, so it's a house that's jointly owned by you and your son?
Yes, ma'am.
But you don't live there regularly?
I don't live there.
And where does Mr. Miller live?
He lives on a different street, but his backyard and my backyard, they meet each other in the back.
How long have you owned that house?
Since 2014.
Long time.
Long time.
Have you met Mr. Miller?
I met him a few times, yes.
Mr. Miller, you recall meeting Mr. Ali?
Yes, ma'am, once.
Okay, but you've met him?
Yes.
Does your son have dogs?
No.
And does the tenant have a dog?
She does.
What kind of dog?
A Yorkie.
You have a Yorkie?
Yes.
It's a small dog.
Yes.
Yes.
So you have one Yorkie in the house. And you have 2 dogs?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind?
A pit bull breed.
Pit bull?
Yes, ma'am.
And the other?
No, both are the same.
Both are the same.
One's actually the mom and the son.
And how old are they?
The mom's 10, the son's about 8.
And you've had them for years?
Since they were born.
So June 16th, you go to check on the house.
Yes.
Tell me what you saw when you pulled up to the house.
When I went there to the house to check my mail, I saw 2 dogs.
Where did you see the 2 dogs?
I saw them in the porch.
On your porch?
Yes.
Okay. Had you ever seen those dogs before?
The one is black and white, and I have some pictures of them.
Oh, you took photos?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Judge.
You took photos of them on the porch or initially when you saw them?
After I saw them, I was walking out, then I took the picture.
Okay, may I see the photograph? Take out the photographs of your dogs. Would you say, give me both photographs, please? I see. One is black.
One is white.
And one is fawn color and white. Are these pictures of your dogs?
Those are pictures of my dogs.
At his house?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now your dogs are out. You're not at his house, just your dogs.
Just the dogs.
Okay, so now I got it. So you took pictures of the dogs the day of this incident at your house?
Yes.
And these are your dogs?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell me what happened with your car.
Then I realized that I think maybe I need to get away from them because they were very ferocious and growling. And I quietly walked away from them, go to my car, locked myself in, and I said, I need to get out. So I saw them, they were jumping all around my car and biting everything.
They were biting what?
Biting the right side of the tire, this side, and the rim and all that.
What your claim is that the dogs caused a substantial amount of damage to your car.
Right.
May I see the photographs of the damage?
Yes, ma'am.
So the car had scratches on it, I see. And what about the wheel rim? Is that, you're also... Okay, have you seen the pictures?
Yes, ma'am.
He sent you pictures of damage.
He sent me some pictures, yes.
of the damage. Okay, so now, Mr. Miller, what Mr. Ali is saying is that your dogs, who he has pictures of, that you acknowledge are your dogs,
Yes, ma'am.
caused damage to his car that he had for a week, that he paid almost $70,000 for. The dogs were clearly outside of your control. They were out of your control because you acknowledge that the photographs of them are without collars, without leashes, nobody around them, and the photographs are taken at his house. I'd like to hear a defense.
Your Honor, there was no way for my dogs to have done the damage. My dogs are older. One of them has no teeth. We have to put water and stuff on her food just so she can eat. The other dog's teeth are filed down. Both of them are up in age. My dogs have never harmed anyone. I have 10 cars of my own in my yard, and
Because on one dog, it looks as if the incisors are filed down a little bit. Still has teeth, but the incisors are filed down. Is what you're telling me that that was a natural process, or you had them filed down?
No, ma'am. Absolutely natural.
Absolutely not what?
Absolutely natural.
Absolutely natural. Okay, so the dogs still have teeth. They are smoother rather than sharp, but they still have teeth. Okay, but that's why they're dogs. You weren't there to witness this, so I have to assume that what the plaintiff tells me is true because his evidence is consistent with that. He has photographs of your dogs outside of your control, no collar, no leash, at his house. And he said that he took those pictures on the damage are your dogs. I'm still waiting for a defense. You mean the fact that they've never done it before you think is a defense?
No, ma'am, not.
What were they doing outside of your control?
They actually got out of my yard from a previous tenant of his dogs that dug a hole up under my gate.
Just a second. So a previous tenant of his had a dog.
I had several dogs.
Several dogs.
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't live there anymore, dug a hole under the fence. When did that happen?
That was earlier that year.
Okay, and when did you first discover it?
I didn't realize it until after this incident.
Are you trying to tell me that it happened earlier in the year and your dogs just found the hole? They had never been out before? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I don't believe that, sir. You're responsible for his deductible. Did you have the car fixed?
No, not yet, ma'am.
Why not?
I have an estimate, and I approached him of that, and I said, let's see if we can do something about this.
Mr. Ali.
Yes, sir.
You
Yes,
have
ma'am.
insurance.
Yes.
And you have insurance for this type of problem.
Yes, Judge.
And you have a $1,000 deductible.
Yes, Judge.
Homeowner's insurance?
Yes, ma'am.
Does the homeowner's insurance exclude your pit bulls?
Do they exclude them? I'm not sure.
Well, in what state do you live?
Florida.
In Florida. Would you look up and see what's the name of your insurance carrier?
I'm not sure, Your Honor. I just switched insurance companies.
Did you have insurance, homeowner's insurance, in June?
Yes, ma'am.
You did?
Absolutely.
Well, did you inform your insurance company that there was a problem?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
Because I was trying to get an understanding of what was going on.
I'm just telling you what's going on. So now you know what's going on. Your dogs caused damage to his car. Most states now exclude certain dogs from their policy. One that's right on top of the... Now you understand. Does your policy exclude your pit bulls?
I don't think so. No, ma'am.
Well, I don't know, and I don't know how to find that out unless you can give me a definitive answer, Sarah. It depends upon the insurance company.
It does.
Yeah, and you don't remember your insurance company. So, Mr. Ali, he's not paying the $8,000 that it's going to take to fix your car. That's what you have insurance for. okay? But he's going to pay the deductible. You have insurance. It's a brand new car because you have a loan. So you must have insurance, which I'm sure you do.
Yes, I do.
Then if you were having a difficult time with Mr. Miller and his insurance, which I could probably understand because it may exclude his dogs from the policy, you have to advise your insurance company. And I don't understand why you didn't do that.
But I was going to see if he wants to go ahead and fix it.
Well, he's not paying $8,000 to fix it. He's going to pay the $1,000 deductible on your policy.
He was suggesting me that he could just go and get a spray paint and paint that little thing. And I didn't like that idea. And I said, let's go to Tesla and have it done by the properly from...
Absolutely, I agree with you. It's a...
Animal control said my dogs were so loving and peaceful. They showed no aggression to them.
I mean, I like to have people as good neighbors.
Even after they put the pole and the hoop around their necks, my dogs were wagging their tails.
The neighbor's dog has some damage to my car, and I want the neighbor to be up to that responsibility.
The plaintiff bought a new Tesla and has a loan on the Tesla. When you have a loan on a car, you're required by the lender to maintain insurance, both collision and liability. This is not a malicious act. It was a careless act. And I think he should use his insurance to pay for it. I think it was fair. I don't think that there was an issue of fact. Did you?
No, I didn't. I think that that was fair because you have insurance for that purpose so that you don't have to pay $8,000 out of pocket to fix damage from
Paid rents and eviction costs.
Ms. Birkland, how long had you lived in your residence?
Prior to the defendant moving in?
Yes.
2 years.
And how long did you live there with the defendant?
A total of 5 years.
You lived
the
in
defendant, I'm sorry, 3 years.
3 years.
This month would have been.
And for most of that 3-year period, what kind of work do you know that the defendant did?
Computer work and music producing.
How do you support yourself, sir?
I produce music. I don't do computer work.
Produce music for whom?
Various artists and brands and whatever.
How long have you been doing that?
Since I was 13 years old.
How old are you now?
32.
You have a corporation or an LLC?
Not currently standing, but I do have one that is out of commission right now that needs to be reestablished.
When was the last time you filed tax returns?
Last
April.
Last April, yeah.
And on your tax returns that you filed, how much did you indicate that you earned?
I receive royalties from a company called, and they take my taxes out automatically, so I'm not sure how much.
I'm asking you how much you reported your gross income was when you filed your tax returns in April. You didn't file tax returns in April.
I assume that they're filed automatically through this company that pays me.
Mr. Lefkowitz, when was the last time you put a stamp on tax returns that you sent to the government?
I do not know.
Ever? You have to think.
No,
ever?
Like I said, where I make most of my money, if not all my money, comes through a company called, which they take out the taxes automatically before paying me. So I've never filed through that. I just assumed that it was already taken care of in that way.
You assumed wrong.
Okay.
Okay. There came a time, Mr. Lefkowitz, you lived there for 3 years, but there came a time when you stopped paying rent.
Correct.
And what was your rent when you moved in with the plaintiff?
$1,200 a month.
You had your own room?
Yes.
Bathroom?
Yes.
Past work?
Yes.
And you've been existing on that for how long?
8 years or so.
So how much do you make from these royalties? You pay $1,200 a month rent, you have a car.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh, it's not an answer.
Yes.
You have a
how
car.
much do I make?
So you have a car, you have insurance.
Yes.
What kind of car do you have?
I have a Honda Clarity.
What year?
It's a lease. It's a 2021.
And how much do you pay a month for the lease?
$395.
Does that include insurance or does it not include insurance?
It does not include insurance.
So you pay an additional how much for insurance?
About $350.
So you spend $700 a month for your car.
Correct.
And let's get back to, you moved in October of 2019, your rent was $1,200 a month. And you lived there until when?
Until about 2 months ago. So September 4th or 3rd is when I moved all my stuff out.
And when was the last month you paid rent?
That would have been in December of 2021.
So you lived there January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, and part of September. So at least 8 months that you lived there and didn't pay rent.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wasn't there for August.
No.
Why not?
I was evicted.
When?
The exact date is August 2nd. I do have my paperwork for notice to vacate and all that.
Just a second.
Sure.
On August 2nd of
I'm sorry, that was the court date, and that's when the judgment was made, was August 2nd.
And when did you move out?
2 weeks later.
That's not true.
And you were evicted for non-payment of rent?
Yes, for 2 months. Yes.
Just a second. You were evicted for non-payment of rent?
Yes, for 2 months.
Well, show me that it was for 2 months. I just want to see that it was for 2 months and what 2 months those were.
That page right there.
No, you didn't leave until, let's say, September 1st.
That sounds more like it.
You didn't leave until September 1st.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I did mistakenly speak. I do remember that the judge...
Don't tell me what the judge said. I'm asking you when you left.
Gave me 6 weeks from that date of August 8th.
What
So
A few days before.
Fine, that's at about the same time.
She actually left after that. I talked to a neighbor that said around the 14th that she was still there.
You can't tell me what the neighbor said, sir. That's why I stopped you before.
Well, I know there's a moratorium for COVID, and the government shut my business down.
That's what he
so
says.
I knew that I had protection.
He's saying the exact same thing you are in his answer. You two are soulmates.
Hey, no, Your Honor, I'm sorry.
Shannon Berkland claims her former roommate, Ian Lefkowitz, is responsible for unpaid rent.
Okay, this eviction notice is dated May 26, and it says that you didn't pay April or May.
Correct.
But both of you lived there in June. Did you pay June?
Yes.
Show me proof. Show me proof that you paid June and July. Show me proof you didn't pay April and May. Show me proof that you paid.
My proof?
Your proof.
Is in the fact that I don't owe any rent except for when the moratorium lapsed and I...
No.
I don't have a receipt. I don't have a receipt for payment.
Then just... And you didn't pay for April, May, June, and July. I know you didn't pay for August. There's no question you didn't pay for August, and you were actually there in August, so you didn't pay for 5 months.
I guess, yes.
Okay, yes. And the reason that you didn't pay rent for those 5 months was what?
I had spent all my savings on paying rent, and I had none left. I paid as much as I could supporting him.
Just a second.
The best I could, and I...
What happened is you both sort of took advantage of this rent moratorium.
Not true.
Well, if you didn't pay rent for April, May, June, July, and August, what were you doing?
Waiting for him to pay his rent because I couldn't afford to pay for my station.
Just a second.
Yeah.
You didn't pay any rent. You did what he says.
I knew that I had protection.
That's what he says. He's saying the exact same thing you are in his answer.
Did he go to court and do the paperwork and do the filings and
Who cares?
And I do.
Who cares? I don't. Each of you seems to be living. You operate your hair business out of your house.
In addition to another business, yes.
Whatever. You operate your hair business out of the house. He operates, I don't know what he does, but I know he's 32 years old, supports himself, spends $700 a month on a car, spent for a long time $1,200 a month rent, and can't remember the last year or the last decade that he filed tax returns. So whatever it is, this is your problem, Miss Berkland, and this is what I actually didn't understand when I read your complaint, because what you're looking for is 8 months' rent from him.
Correct.
You didn't pay the rent.
I shouldn't be evicted. I asked him to leave every month that he didn't pay me.
Should have read a cutter.
I had a business as a hairdresser, and I went out to rent a station, and I was out for 4 months to pay for a station.
It doesn't matter.
Because I wanted to go back to be my nice space that I had created for myself, and I've worked my butt off for, and my clients liked. I wasn't getting paid rent for his room. I wanted to move my studio into his. Been easy, and this home was the one thing that I've worked my ass off for. It's the only thing in life that I loved besides my
Miss Berkland, did you say to your landlord,
yes,
I have a roommate.
Yes.
He's not paying me his half of the rent, but I want to show you in good faith, I am going to give you my portion of the rent. You didn't do that.
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Well, show me. Just a second. Show me. All I know is they say this is your evidence for the full amount of the rent for April and May. And I know you didn't pay June, July, August, and September. I know you didn't pay that. So I'm asking you
Just show me some proof, Miss Birkeland, that you said to your landlord, who is also in business, well, we have a rent moratorium. I'm not in any worse position now than before, so I'm just not going to pay rent.
Your Honor, I was...
Just show me that you made partial payment to the landlord for April, May, June, July, and August.
I don't have that because I was protected under the law.
Okay, good.
And so is he.
Case is dismissed. We're finished.
One question
Goodbye. Goodbye. Listen,
I can prove
you
to
two
you
are so.
that
You're
I
just
attempted to
you're
pay
just a,
full rent.
You
After he
two.
was gone, and I was able to bring my business into the house.
You two are soulmates. You both relied.
No, Your Honor, I'm sorry.
Out.
This court is adjourned.
Soulmates. You both took advantage of a law, and you both lost. Goodbye.
I have nowhere to operate both of my businesses. I created one during COVID.
We both exercised our rights under California tenant laws.
Which I would have had I had a room that he wouldn't leave.
You know, that's just what it is.
Every month I pleaded with him.
That never happened.
I cried, I fought.
She never asked me to leave crying, approached me, or nothing.
If it can be helped, don't have a roommate.
Exact same legal loophole that was created during COVID for people who really were struggling and not being able to afford their rent. And now she sues him for doing the exact same thing that she did. So the landlord is really the only one out here.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And if you could write a check to the landlord, that would be fine. But the landlord isn't a party. I have a feeling that there are a lot of very small landlords, you know, not people that own giant buildings, but people who have, you know, their real estate businesses are small. They may have 2 or 3 or 4 apartments that they rent. They maintain them, whatever. She was living there for a while, clearly happy with the situation because she lived there for 5 years. Well, why just not pay your rent if you're still doing hair in the apartment? That's a business. That's what you're doing. He's still collecting his same royalties, which he thinks somebody else should be reporting on their tax return.
Yeah.
I don't know. People have to really grow up. I'm getting so... losing my patience so quick.
Damages from a motorcycle accident.
This is a case that's about an automobile motorcycle collision. Each one of you claims that the other is responsible for the collision. Miss Garcia, you were riding the motorcycle?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were in your car?
Yes.
Okay. And this happened on what date?
March 21st, 2022, around 3 p.m.
In what state?
California.
In the state of California, are you required to have insurance on a motorcycle?
Yes, Your Honor.
Just liability?
Liability if it's paid for in full, correct. Yes, Your Honor.
And were you insured on that date?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you were driving a car?
Yes.
And was your car insured on March 21st, 2022?
Not at the time.
So the answer is no?
No.
Did you have a valid driver's license on March 21st, 2022?
Yes.
From what state?
California.
What kind of car were you driving?
A 2011 Nissan Sentra.
Was it a new car for you, or did you have it for a while?
It's a new car. I purchased it 3 weeks prior to the incident.
And if you bought it 3 weeks before, how come you didn't have liability insurance?
I was looking for insurance, and plus, at the time, I hadn't received my paperwork. It was still in the other person's name at the used car dealer.
Thank you. I have proof that April Tarrant purchased her vehicle February 8th, 2022. She drove uninsured for 41 days, and it was not from a lot. It was from someone off the street. I have the proof for that.
I'd like to see it.
Yes. Oh, thank you. For $2,050.
Well, this car that you registered, the selling price was $2,050, according to this.
No, it wasn't. And
well, I'm going to show you vehicle and transfer law. This is 2011 Sentra, and it was signed, but it's LLC. That's his company.
Okay.
So it wasn't off the street, but it said the selling price was $2,000. That's what this says.
I don't have my paperwork in my car.
Want to show this to her? I just want to get some basic facts first, and then I'm going to go to the incident.
But right there.
That's
yes.
Okay, we have a diagram. This happened on March 21st, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You had no insurance, and you were traveling in the bike lane.
No, that is not true. I shared the lane of the car on the right. I would never go into a bike lane that is disrespectful to the road and riders.
Just a second. Are you allowed to share a lane with a car and a motorcycle?
That is your right, yes.
I know Foothill. Is that where you were?
Yes, Your Honor.
And at a certain time during the day, Foothill becomes very trafficked.
Yes.
And the cars sometimes get stopped because there's a light, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go over to there, Miss Garcia, and show me, please, where you were positioned before you say that you were traveling in the same lane as a car.
Your Honor, I was directly behind this car.
Okay.
Directly behind.
You were directly behind that car.
Yes.
And that car was stopped.
They were slowing to a stop.
No, they were stopped because they had to have been stopped because that's why you went around him.
They were slowing to a stop. By the time I got around here, they were stopped. I didn't.
Got it, Miss Garcia. You want me to appreciate the fact that you wanted to get around the stopped car and you wanted to continue to go straight, correct? You weren't turning. You wanted to go straight.
I was going straight, correct.
And so you want me to picture in this tiny mind of mine that instead of going into a perfectly clear bike lane, you inched your way at 25 miles an hour in the same lane as a stopped car.
Yes.
Right.
This diagram,
you know, I find that hard to believe, Miss Garcia.
Your
I
Honor,
really find that hard to believe. You may be in the right with regard to this, but I find it hard to believe.
The roads are very wide. I have the actual police photo document of that.
I'd like to see it.
Yes, Your Honor. Right here.
And I'd like to see the police report as well. Is there a police report?
It's attached to this.
Fine. Because as you were traveling straight, the defendant was making a left turn. She was making a left turn. What happened was she was making a left turn. According to this, you went into her passenger side. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So where is the motorcycle now?
I no longer have it. The towing company, they sold it.
What are you driving around in now?
1995 Chevy Baville.
Atta girl!
Amari Garcia is accusing fellow motorist April Taryn of damaging her motorcycle. April claims Amari was illegally driving in the bike lane.
Who was in the car with you, Miss Taryn?
My son and his girlfriend.
One of them had an injury.
Yes. My son's girlfriend, she was in the driver's passenger side. And while I was turning into the lane, I just felt a crash and saw glass going into my car, and then she was cut.
Okay, and you had an injury to your knee?
Yes, I have several injuries, and I have photos as well.
You understand, Miss Taryn, that the police interviewed witnesses. You were the cause of the collision. That's what it says.
And I don't...
It says that you caused the collision by violating Vehicle and Traffic Law 21-8001, failure to yield when making a left turn. I determined the cause based upon the parties involved and the physical evidence. That's what the police determined. Okay, well, then that's an easy, based upon the police report, because each of you were going to tell two different stories about what happened that day. Police were there, they looked at the physical evidence, they looked at the injuries, they looked at the damage to the roadway, they interviewed independent witnesses, and that was their determination.
I understand, Judge, but the police report had some inconsistencies where, like, she was driving in the bicycle lane, which is against the law. And what I was doing, I was making the left turn, as you know. And these two front cars, which one of them was a witness.
Yes, that car paused to let you make a left turn.
Yes, both lanes. And
I'm just telling you.
No, I know.
Yeah,
that's what
I'm just
said.
telling you. That's not what this is. That's what you say. There was nothing that prevented those two cars from going.
Exactly.
There wasn't a traffic light, there wasn't a stoplight at that spot.
Yes.
And there was heavy traffic.
Yes.
So it's your responsibility to make sure if you're making a left turn that you have to yield to all oncoming traffic. And so the fact that you didn't see her is really not relevant. And as long as you understand that this police report supports Miss Garcia's claim that you caused this accident by making a left turn when you shouldn't have been making a left turn. That's what this says. And that, You know, at the end of the day, it's an accident. That's why it's not called an on purpose. It's called an accident. Neither one of you anticipated it. As far as I'm concerned, Ms. Carcer, you're entitled to be compensated, but I'm going to suggest this to you. If I'm driving a motorcycle, which I would never do, just for me, I think it's wacky. I think there are enough crazy people driving around that I like about 2,000 pounds of steel around me so that if somebody who is not paying attention and there's an accident, I like to be safe. My first car when I was 17, all my friends were getting these cute little cars, you know, that were convertibles, and my father was a boat. Oh, come on. Everybody else is getting these cute little Corvettes, even if they're used ones. And my father, who loved me a lot, said to me, sweetheart, if you get into the accident, I want you to come out unscathed. And this ensures that you got a shot if you get into an accident. And I feel better. So I'm just telling you, if you're going to drive a motorcycle, don't take shortcuts. I know this place on Foothill, and I know what happened here. You know, you wanted to go, there was no reason why you couldn't. That's why you drive a motorcycle, because you can get into tight places. But you look like an intelligent young woman.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Don't take chances. That was a chance. It could have been a lot worse. What was the damage to your motorcycle?
I have pictures. Would you like to see them, Your Honor?
I would.
I did look it up. Lane splitting motorcycles is legal in California. Based on
motorcycle now.
I no longer have it. The towing company, they sold it. They sold it for $70 they claim, and I got hit with collections afterwards. I have the bill for that if you'd like to see that.
How much did you pay for it?
$6,407.
Do you have the bill?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
For my motorcycle, what I paid for, correct?
Yes, what you paid for it. What are you driving around in now?
A 1995 Chevy Baville.
Atta girl! Atta girl. Okay. I'm giving you the value of the motorcycle.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Which is $6,407. I'm not splitting whose fault this was, actually, but I'm not awarding you any punitive damages for her. She had injuries in her car. You were slightly injured, but both of you seem fine now. I don't think that you were careful enough when you were going straight and around that car that was stopped. But the defendant didn't have insurance, and she was cited by the police for violation of a traffic law. So I'm giving you the cost of your motorcycle.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judgment for the plaintiff.
This court is adjourned.
So I actually ended up, after the scared, I thought, like, oh, this is it, my legs are out.
And like I said, I was being cautious, and
thankfully I wasn't.
But it ended up in that kind of situation.
Definitely more safely as far as better gear, and, you know, like she said, don't take a shortcut or anything of that sort.
So I looked up lane splitting, and in California, it's one of the few states that allows it for motorcyclists. It does say inexperienced riders shouldn't attempt it because, like we see, it's very easy to get hit or for someone not to see you if you're splitting between lanes, but it is legal. So she wasn't in the wrong by lane splitting, but I think it was a sticky situation. You're behind a car, someone's turning.
What does it say if you're injured?
It does say on the Highway Patrol website that you're splitting at your own risk. So any injuries that happen.
When you think about the greatest inventors of all time, there are a few names that come to mind. Henry Ford, the Wright brothers, Thomas Edison. But there's one name that is not as recognizable. When you plug your phone in, turn on the lights, or use the refrigerator, you have Nikola Tesla to thank. This is the story of the forgotten genius, and the story begins at the end. On January 7th, 1943, a maid working at the New Yorker Hotel walked into room 3327, where she found the body of an 86-year-old man who had called the hotel home for the past decade. Tesla died alone and broke. He lived off a diet of warm milk and crackers and was obsessed with feeding the pigeons outside. One of the greatest inventors of all time faded into obscurity and died penniless. There is a reason why this happened, which will become clear by the end of this story. Tesla was born in the town of Smiljan, in present-day Croatia, on July 10, 1856. He was born during a lightning storm. According to family legend, the midwife said halfway through the birth, "This child will be a child of darkness," to which his mother replied, "No, He will be a child of light. Little did she know how prophetic those words would be. When Tesla was 5, he witnessed his older brother fall from a horse and later die. This event haunted him for the rest of his life. As a child, he began seeing visions accompanied by flashes of light, confusing what was real and what was imaginary. This never went away. These visions spurred his ability to conceive inventions in his head in such detail that he didn't even need to draw them out. He explained how the designs were perfected in his mind in an article in 1919. Invariably, my device works as I conceived that it should, and the experiment comes out exactly as I planned it. In 20 years, there has not been a single exception. Tesla credits his mom for his interest in invention. Duca Mandik invented small household appliances in her spare time. She had an eidetic memory, the ability to recall an image from memory with high precision, and she passed this on to her son. Tesla's father was a priest and wanted him to become one too. But Tesla was interested in engineering. When he contracted cholera as a teen and nearly died, his father promised to send him to engineering school if he survived. And, miraculously, he did. He went to study in Austria at the Technical College of Graz, where he is said to have worked from 3 a.m. until 11 p.m. every day. Professors were worried that he would die from exhaustion. Tesla had a beautiful mind. He could perform calculus in his head and spoke 8 languages. He was a good student at the start, but would not finish school. He dropped out after becoming addicted to gambling and cut ties with his family so they wouldn't find out. His friends didn't know what happened to him either. They thought he had drowned in a river. Tesla moved around Europe and eventually ended up in Budapest, working as an electrician at a telephone company. One day, while walking around a park in the city, he had an epiphany about developing a new way of generating electricity using alternating current. This would become his greatest invention, and it would change the world. I'll explain more about AC a little later. In 1882, he settled in Paris to work for the French branch of Thomas Edison's electric company. He started off installing indoor lighting, but the managers noticed his talents and had him doing more complicated work, designing and building dynamos and motors. He was soon traveling throughout Europe, fixing problems at other Edison branches. 2 years later, in 1884, Tesla's manager offered him a job at Edison Machine Works in New York City. He agreed and arrived in America with only 4 cents in his pocket because his money was stolen on the boat ride over. Tesla initially had a good impression of Edison. Edison was also impressed by Tesla, later saying, "I have had many hard-working assistants, but you take the cake." This mutual admiration didn't last. They would become bitter rivals. The two men disagreed over how electricity should be contained and delivered. Edison preferred direct current, where the electric charge only flows in one direction. Tesla, however, was a fan of alternating current, in which the electric charge changes direction periodically. Changing directions is crucial to maintaining a steady supply of electricity because it does not overpower outlets. This means it can provide more power and transmit power over longer distances. It's the reason AC powers our homes and large appliances, whereas DC powers smaller items like flashlights. But Edison didn't care about AC because it could have hurt the sales of direct current, as he owned all the patents for DC. According to Tesla, a manager at Edison's company offered him a $50,000 bonus if he could improve some machines that ran on DC. When he did, the manager refused to pay up. Another account of the story has Edison telling Tesla, "You don't understand our American humor." Regardless of how it played out, Tesla quit and set off to form his own electric company the following year, in 1885. But his investors showed little interest and decided to take the company and all of Tesla's patents, which they could do because Tesla had assigned the patents to the company in exchange for stock, which was now worthless. After losing his company, Tesla had to take a job digging ditches for $2 a day just to survive. But his fortunes would change. In 1887, Tesla invented an induction motor that ran on alternating current. The motor was the most efficient way to convert electricity to mechanical power. A version of it powers Tesla's vehicles, which took its name from the inventor. He patented the motor and showed it off the following year at the American Institute of Electrical Engineers, which caught the attention of George Westinghouse, a major player in the electric market, who realized Tesla's AC motor might be what he needed to complete his alternating current system and compete against Edison's DC system. So Tesla licensed the patents for the AC motor to Westinghouse for $60,000 and also received stock and royalties. Westinghouse hired him as a consultant for $2,000 a month, which is the equivalent of over $50,000 a month today. Westinghouse and Tesla's AC system triumphed, illuminating the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition and later powering the Niagara Falls hydroelectric plant. But Westinghouse's company fell into debt, and he pleaded with Tesla to reduce his royalties. Tesla, grateful for Westinghouse's faith in him, tore up his contract. He gave up millions, which would be worth over $300 million today. Tesla began work on wireless radio transmission, but a devastating fire destroyed his lab in 1895. Around the same time, Guglielmo Marconi patented his own radio, using Tesla's ideas. Though Tesla sued, the U.S. Patent Office ultimately awarded Marconi the credit, and he won a Nobel Prize in 1911. Tesla's declining fortune and mental health forced him to abandon his wireless dreams. His wireless tower was lost to foreclosure, and he lived out his days in solitude at the New Yorker Hotel. So why did one of the greatest inventors fade into obscurity and die penniless? Tesla was not a capitalist. He prioritized science over money, making decisions that others wouldn't, like tearing up his AC royalties contract. Yet Tesla did change the world. Today, thanks in part to Elon Musk's Tesla Inc., people are rediscovering this genius whose inventions power our lives.